Hi, this is Andrew Twidwell, owner of ABT Plumbing, Electric, Heat and Air. Once again with the show You Got This. It's a show of DIY do's and don'ts. And it's a special show today. We've got Rosalie zooming in. Well, not zooming. We're doing Riverside. But anyway, a different format in LA. And we've got Dee Dee in the studio in our office in Auburn. Dee Dee is the head of our HVAC department. And she's going to be talking a little bit about HVAC stuff because I don't know about you, but my goodness, it's hot. And it's going to be really hot. This is airing Friday, and it's going to be another scorcher over the weekend. I don't know why it's the weather has decided to just do the really, really, really hot days on Saturday and Sunday when everybody's out trying to play, and it's triple digits. But it is what it is, right? So we have no control over that. But I don't know, how's the weather been down in LA? I know it's been kind of wacky all over the country. I know Vermont's flooding, Texas is... People are dying. We're hot here. How's it in LA? Comfy?
Comfy. Oh my God. So rude. No, it's weird. It's so weird because just the other day it was like little sweater weather, and now we went from sweater weather to right now it's only 82, but it's going to be like 90 by the weekend, which isn't a big deal.
Sweater weather.
It gets hot. I know it gets hot places, but it's just that the transition, there was no transition. It was like you could wear a sweatshirt and now you want to be out, you don't want to be outside. So it's just the fact that there was no transition. It was like, here you go. Like,
yeah,
you're cold or your face is frying off. So yeah, it's going to be a bummer.
We've had some wonky weather. I know, I've talked about it before. We were up in the High Sierras a couple weeks ago, and the amount of snow and snow melt was just ridiculous still in the middle of June, right? And actually, I'm going to go up there again this weekend. It's going to be 93 or something like that up at Gold Lake, which, that's pretty darn warm at 6,000 feet. And Lake Tahoe is going to be about the same. So it's going to be another scorcher. And I know Sacramento is supposed to hit, what is it? I just checked it, 110, something like that. And 109. And Grass Valley is going to be like 103. So yeah, it's pretty warm up here. So
I'm not complaining. Yeah. I'm not complaining now.
No, yeah. I mean, compared to LA, where you're going to be, sweater weather to maybe a
90.
little, 90-ish. So yeah,
I'll take it.
It's not. I mean, 90s, you still need air conditioning, as far as I'm concerned. But anything over 80, I like to have air conditioning.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's been a crazy ride this year with the weather. It's been so cool and mild, and all of a sudden, bam, the switch has been flipped. And ironically, I mean, we've been kind of, Dee Dee sitting here, we've been kind of complaining about how mild it's been because, I mean, we're our HVAC department is a weather-driven business. And when it's mild out, people aren't calling us a lot. So, it's been a little hectic. And now all of a sudden, it's been so crazy and everybody wants us, right away. So, and we're doing our best to get out to people's houses.
Well, I want to just say something. Dee Dee fan club here. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was talking to her about something work related. And I was like, something smells and something smells and I don't know what it is. Anyway, I opened up the closet that my little AC is in, and there was a lot of problems with it. So I shot a picture and sent it to her. She's like, that is not supposed to be happening. You need to call someone right away. And so turned out I wasn't fully charged, and so I was blowing really all kinds of issues. My unit was like got ice on it. It took 2 days to thaw
right,
out.
you were telling me that. So it was icing up and mold was growing and... Yeah, because so ironically, we can go a little bit back further because we were on our last newsletter, we were talking, you brought up this great article about HVAC and what to do, and a couple of the key points there were talking about mold, and I'm like, mold's not really an issue here in California. We rarely run into that. It's more like the Midwest and South. We really run into that, and then lo and behold, you got mold in LA. So
yeah, I said au contraire, mon frere, and I texted you a picture, and I was like, that part stays because this is my life. This just happened. But it was interesting because, because the weather had been not so, it wasn't that hot. So it was like my daughter kept saying the AC is not blowing all the way. And I was like,
Right.
what do you know? Like, you always blow up your kids. Like, what do you know? And the weather,
whatever.
yeah, the weather hadn't been that extreme. And so I didn't notice it. But then things started to stink a little bit. The first thing I did is I looked at the drains, because my drains always get funky. And so I thought, that's
The
not
plumbing
the drains.
drains.
Yeah. And so, just in the kitchen. And so anyway, long story short, I opened it up and I was like, hey, Dee Dee, is it supposed to look like this? And she was like, are you insane? You need to call someone right now.
Unfortunately, you rent, so you just had to call the landlord.
Yeah, I just called.
Great.
Yeah.
What, did they fix it?
Oh yeah, he was gonna be right back, and then of course he got busy, so it was the next day. But it was okay, because I didn't realize how much ice was. It literally, there was ice all inside, and so it actually it needed to thaw out. And I was like, this is so wild. You'd think that, I don't know, like I would know better since I talk to you all the time. But anyway, it was.
When was the last time you worked on a heating and air system? So yeah,
it's been a while. I don't pay attention to a lot of things that don't affect my day to day. And you would think like that would be something that would affect me. But when you have pets, stuff smells. When you have like funky drains, stuff smells. When it's been cool outside, you don't notice the AC not running. So in my defense, I just have my mind on other places, but it's fixed. So anyway,
when you're fine, like it brings back a story for me. Like a friend of my wife and a couple friends were up skiing. And one of her friends said to her, was asking her plumbing questions, and she didn't know the answer. And she's like, well, aren't you married to a plumber? And she's like, yeah, I don't work on this stuff.
It's kind of like the spouse of a dentist. You can't diagnose. I might be married to a dentist, but I'm not actually cleaning the teeth. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah. My husband's a doctor, but I'm not doing heart surgery.
Right. Thankfully, right? People are crazy.
So yeah, we don't expect you to know about anything about this, even though you are our producer extraordinaire on an HVAC, plumbing, electrical, heating, air show.
Okay, see, this is his backhanded. Like, let me just pause.
It's not a back. That didn't come out right. Yeah,
exactly. Andrew needs a little training on his PR. Don't worry. Well, I'll get you up to speed. Let's turn the show over.
That's why I have you. Take it away.
So I'm gonna transition to Dee Dee. So Dee Dee, now we're getting into the hotter weather, and so I know there's some things that people can do to kind of, I don't know, maintain their systems, unlike myself.
That is correct. So some of the, obviously, most importantly, is just have your system maintenance once to twice a year, depending on where you live. If you live out on a ranch and you have a lot of dust exposure, I always tell people it's a good idea to have it checked twice a year, not only for the filth factor of equipment, but also just rodents getting into your ductwork, and creatures get into weird places. You just want to make sure everything is good.
We've seen that where like raccoons crawling through ductwork and rats crawling through ductwork. I mean, it's no joke. And then at that point, we're ripping everything out, because I don't know about you, but if you know about rodents, they don't use a potty. They just defecate and pee wherever they're at. So like all the ductwork gets all just like nasty, and it happens all the time in our area in Nevada County. It's crazy.
Yeah, this is a true story. This happened right before Christmas. I was at a customer's house, and I will not say the area. Standing in their living room, and they were having a major squirrel issue because they were feeding the squirrels on their deck. And literally, one came out of the register in the living room and ran past us and ran upstairs. And that, I, of course, was completely shocked, and they were not. Because they're like, well, yeah, that's part of the problem. They're coming in the house now.
They're their habit trail.
Yeah. And I just was like, well, you might want to stop feeding them. That'd be my number one suggestion. Yeah.
So and that's something goes back on, like, people have this vision. All right, what are you going to say? We can't hear you. You're on mute. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Dee Dee.
Yes.
Dee Dee. We've been friends for a really long time. How did you save this story about the squirrels until now?
know. I thought I told it to you. It was so crazy. I mean, it literally was just all whoop, like right past it. And I was like, whoa. And yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts.
So I was going to say, yeah.
Who keeps pet squirrels? Who keeps pet squirrels?
Oh, I know people that keep pet squirrels.
They don't keep them. They
No.
are enticing them
Yeah.
to their house
Yeah.
because they think they're cute and they're feeding them peanuts. And this is by far not the first time I've ever come across this up here.
Yeah.
So it happens a lot, and people need to not do it.
Yeah. Don't feed the wildlife, people. I guess unless you've got like a back 40 and you use it for hunting or something, but yeah.
Don't invite them into your living room. I mean,
Yeah.
I
So I wanted to kind of go back on that because people have this vision of all the ductwork in their house as like this nice tight steel trap, right? And like it's completely impenetrable to anything. No, most of our ductwork that's installed for the past 30 or 40 years is essentially 2 plastic bags with some insulation in between and a piece of wire. So it's perfectly fine. It works great, and it's industry standard. We've been using it for literally 30, 40 years, but it is not impervious to rodents. Rodents will find a way in there. If you have a rodent issue, you will have a rodent issue inside of your heating and air system. If you have a rodent issue, if a pest control guy comes out or pest control company comes out and says you've got a rodent issue, I would highly recommend that you have an HVAC contractor come out and inspect the ductwork that's at least the visible ones that's underneath the house for any gaps or tears, because once they find their way into it, they wreak havoc, and we literally have to rip it all out because of the biohazard. So it's nasty, and not just rodents. Well, squirrels are they're rodents.
rodent.
Yeah.
I mean, possum, raccoons,
Yeah.
skunks, you name it. I mean, even stray cats.
Oh, yeah.
And if they get up in your house, they'll urinate inside your house. That'll
Yeah.
be bad.
Yeah, bats.
Bats.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just got to keep them outside. Keep all that stuff outside. But yeah, so if you do have a squirrel popping its head up through the register, you really
would
want to
move.
have us out there.
I would move, but
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was just really funny because the wife's reaction was very much like, "See," and the husband was more like, "Oh,
Interesting.
yeah, like, and I just thought, well, okay. And so then we all just kind of stood there for a minute. I thought, well, is anybody going to go upstairs? I mean, should I volunteer to go upstairs? I don't.
Get the net.
Yeah, where do we go from here? You know? Yeah. So apparently they did call an exterminator, and I'm not sure how Fluffy got from downstairs, but she straight up said this has happened multiple times.
So just to let everybody know, our listening people are listening to this is not scripted. We did not plan this. This is
I
just
had
right
no
off the
idea.
cuff. It's an interesting
I
life we
didn't know-
live working in people's homes. So
I had no idea this was a thing. I had no idea. I knew about like mice. I knew about rats. I could see a skunk maybe like underneath the house, but you're talking about raccoons, and now I'm picturing raccoons just walking out of your walls. And then now you're talking about squirrels popping in and out.
popping their heads up to the registers. Yeah.
Yep.
I did not know that this is a thing.
What up?
The little masked bandit.
I'd like to talk to you after the show about a web series we're gonna do. That's on this whole thing.
What I wanted to have happen was another one come up and they do that like high five thing, like on that insurance, commercial. That would have been awesome, but that didn't happen.
Okay, we digress. All right, what else you got?
Okay.
So this is all stuff like to keep an eye out for your heating and air system, because you don't want to end up like Rosalie without air conditioning, because especially when it's 109 degrees or 103 degrees.
Yes. So if you're able to, I would take a lap around the outside of your house, just look and see if there's any holes, visible holes, like through the screens of the little venting at the base of your house, or any, siding that might have come loose.
And speaking of that, most people don't realize this mouse can get through a hole the size of a dime, and a rat can get through the hole the size of a quarter.
Yeah.
So 3/4 of an inch, a rat can get through it. So they're very persistent. And I've had some issues at our house currently, and they were digging underneath the foundation to get into our house, and I had to put wire in that area to keep them away. They're very, very persistent.
Yeah, ground squirrels can be really persistent.
Yeah.
And then some other simple things you can do to, help you through the hot wave coming up is make sure your filters are changed and clean. That's like number one. Make sure all your registers are open in your house. A lot of people think if they shut registers down in rooms that they're not using anymore, that they're saving energy, but you're not. It's still running the same amount and using the same amount of energy, only now you're causing issues back to the system.
Yeah.
Set your thermostat lower. I mean, I know we have a lot of older customers that kind of run warmer, and so they will set their thermostats for like 80 degrees, and then when it is 105 outside, it gets too hot and the system can't catch itself.
Well, 80 is kind of okay.
80 in the house?
In the house? That's hot.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Set it lower.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because otherwise, if it hits 86, you're not.
Right.
Your AC's not catching that.
Yeah. Okay.
So try and set it lower, like 76 if you run cold.
I misunderstood what you were saying.
That's
I got
okay.
it.
That's
I got
okay.
It.
We love you anyway. It's all right.
Do you see,
Dee, do you see what I'm working with?
I know. It's
After week after
the
week.
help these
I am
days.
an AARP member after all.
So yes, try and set your thermostat a little bit lower, have it come on a little bit earlier so that it's not chasing itself and your house will maintain a cooler level. Also run fans if you have fans going on. I highly recommend that. That can help move air movement.
Speaking of fans, if you've got ceiling fans, there's a little switch on the side of the ceiling fan. In the wintertime, you want the air to be moving up. And in the summer, you want the air to be moving down. So in the wintertime, we want to circulate the air in the room. We don't necessarily want to have wind coming against this. But in the summertime, we want to have wind going against us to keep us cool. So flip that switch.
Which direction is that? If you're pushing air down, is it righty-tighty or lefty-loosey?
It depends on the blades.
Okay.
So you just want to make sure the air is coming towards you as you're underneath the fan and not going away from you. If you're not feeling any wind coming down from the fan, flip the switch and it'll switch it, and it's just like a little toggle switch on the side of the fan. So that's something.
I'm looking
and that's
at
like
my
a seasonal
fan.
thing that if you haven't done that in the past, it's something you might want to start doing now because you can literally save hundreds of dollars a year by that simple thing because of the fact that you can set your thermostat just a little bit higher and not have to set it as lower. You can do like 1 to 2 degrees. I know myself, I do it. I have one over the couch, and I'm able to sit in a 76-degree room as opposed to 75 or 72 or something like that, and it's still comfortable. Anyway, we digress.
That's all good. And then something that, especially for people that do live, again, up here, we're a very rural community, so we do have a lot of ranches, people that are on acreage, is to have a professional come out and clean and check your coil and condenser because they will gather a lot of dust, animal hair. Make sure that there's no bushes around your condenser, that it can have as much.
And describe what these things are because they may not know what you're talking about.
So the condenser is the square box outside. And if all of your HVAC is just one big box outside, just make sure the entire area is clear, 3-4 feet, as much area as you can
Don't
get
have
it
any
to
plywood leaned up against it. Don't have anything because you want to keep that airflow really open.
Yeah, totally open. If you have bushes that need pruning and you can't do that, maybe ask a family member or a neighbor to help you with that. That's really, really important. And again, if you see that it does look dirty, don't just take a hose and jet spray it because you'll actually shove that dirt into the coil. Call your local HVAC company and have them come out and
hopefully
actually
that'd be
do
us.
cleaning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I just point out that I love that you're saying this because I just saw a competitor of ABT on Facebook actually showing people water hose in their condenser. And I, again, not an HVAC technician, clearly. I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea. But they were promoting it, like to rinse it out with a hose. So I'm glad you're mentioning that that's probably not a good idea.
I mean, if they can take the fan off, and do things, you can. But you're only supposed to use certain chemicals as well. You can't just run down to the hardware store and just spray anything you want on it.
Right.
So That's a
And that-
little.
And that's something too, like running a hose on it and getting the dust off of it. Yeah, you're going to improve the efficiency a little bit. But what we do is we actually use a coil cleaning process that takes the film off of it and can increase the efficiency by as much as 10 to 15% of the system. So it's not just that thin layer of dust, it's actually the oils and things that are accumulating on that inhibit the transfer of the temperature, because that's all we're doing is we're moving heat out of the house and by thermodynamics. So if that has any kind of residual or residue on there whatsoever, it can impede that transfer of heat. So it's really important that you have it cleaned on a regular basis. And you were saying something about the coil. So describe the coil, because that's a whole other thing that it's not really DIY, but
Yeah, so then you have an evaporative coil that's usually attached to a furnace or air handler that, your return air. So if you're not changing your filters regularly, then what gets through the filter is now getting attached to the coil and clogging that as well. So it's like a radiator. So it needs to be able to make that transfer. And if it's got, I literally have seen them with like blankets of cat
bath
fur.
mat.
Yeah, horrible.
Yeah.
And it can not only damage the system, but it can drop your transfer, 10, 15, 20 degrees. It's huge. Yeah.
And speaking of that, so it is one of those things that it's kind of hidden. You're not going to see it, but it is something that when you're using your heating and air system, air is going across that thing, whether it's the winter or the summertime. It's still moving the air through the system. We're using the furnace as an air handler, and the coil is what actually pulls the heat out of the house during the summertime. But in the wintertime, when we're heating the air with the furnace, the air is still going across that. So it is still potentially making that coil clogging that coil with lint and oils and debris. And like Dee Dee was saying, we've seen some really nasty ones where I'm surprised they even work. And you get things like what you were describing, Rosalie, where you have icing of the system because you're not having that transfer of heat, and things just ice up and they don't work properly. And you could literally be spending 50 to 75% more on your energy bill. It's ridiculous how much more you can be spending on your energy bill by not doing this. So, definitely it's worth the... it's typically most of us are doing these system checks for under $100. Cleaning's going to be a little bit more if it's warranted, but the investment for doing this is so worth it when you're talking about a summertime, especially right now, where you're probably spending anywhere for $150 to $500 a month to cool your house, depending on the size of your house.
For sure. And one of the number one culprits when we get a no AC call or a no heat call in the wintertime is clogged filters.
Yeah.
It's such a simple thing. It's a relatively inexpensive thing to change. And the industry standard is like every 3 months. I tell people every 2 months. Why not? They're like $7, for a basic one. So
And we on the show, we recommend inspecting it at least monthly.
yeah.
And if you can't see through it, change it. If it looks dirty, change it. And like you're saying,
Especially if you have fuzzy pets.
If you've got fuzzy pets, oh my God! And if that filter's on the floor or at floor level, and you got pests, oh my gosh, they get filled up really fast. If it's in the ceiling, it takes a little longer for the hair to float up there, so it's not as bad. But yeah, they get nasty quick, and it is amazing. And and also don't use those high efficiency filters. Those 3M high efficiency filters will actually make your air dirtier because they inhibit the amount of air across that. And if you've got the filter that's inside the house, not at the unit, it'll actually pull air in through the return ducting. And where's that return ducting? It's under the house and in crawl spaces or an attic. So it's pulling in fiberglass, it's pulling in feces, rodent feces, and all this other stuff. So yeah, oh my gosh, we're almost done. With that, hopefully this has been an informative show. This has been fun. You learned a lot about squirrels and rodents and all kinds of fun stuff that we didn't think about talking about. Totally unscripted. But if you need any help with your plumbing, electrical, or heating and air, you can reach us at 530-230-9092. The number again, 530-230-9092. You can find us on the web at abtplumbing.com. And please like us on Facebook. We've got all this information, and we share this show, and you can actually see our mugs on there. We actually put this up on YouTube. Thanks for listening, and catch you guys next week. Bye. Next later.